Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another video. This is comic book hype number 2. Like with the first video, the purposes of this series, I'll do one every now and then. It's not meant to be like a long ongoing series. It might even just turn out to be a mini series. But anyway, the purpose of this series is to just showcase some books that had been hot at one point. They may still very well be. There might be some steam on them. They still very well may be valuable, of course. But there was a point, for whatever reason, whether there was a rumor, whether it was a character was going to be in a movie or a TV show, that these books started to really heat up and really jumped in price very far down the line than what they used to be for many, many years. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about them and show you. I have a stack of books here, so let's get started. Okay, here we have, I think a lot of people remember this one, X Factor number 6. They remember this one when it was really picking up. After X-Men Days of Future Past, when Apocalypse, you saw him in the post-credit scene, and right around the time the movie X-Men Apocalypse was coming out in 2016. This book was pretty hot. I mean, I don't want to say it was red hot, but it was fetching a lot more than what it had been fetching for many, many years. When I first bought this copy back in '93, I think I paid like $5 for it, maybe something like that. Well, that was back in '93, but I don't think it really jumped in price a whole lot as the years went on from there. I mean, maybe when you started hitting like the 2010s, this book was maybe getting around $20 or something like that for a nice grade. But it wasn't until when the movie was announced, as it is with most things, the reason why these things get popular, why things get hyped, why things go in price. When the movie announced, well, the movie's coming out, Apocalypse is going to be in the movie, it really shot up. Right now, I think you could get very nice high-grade copies of this for, a fraction of what they were going for 4 years ago. This is summer of 2020, so the movie came out, 2016, I think? You can get a really nice copy of this for a fraction of what it was going for. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if Marvel, now that the X-Men are in the MCU, and they really start getting things going again. Hopefully it gets going very successfully. I know we're in troubled times now, uncertain times, but if everything goes back to normal, I wouldn't be surprised if Apocalypse shows up again. I mean, it would be nice. It would make sense. If they actually did Apocalypse right, it could be a really terrific line of movies and storytelling. So. Again, I mentioned Days of Future Past, and remember, these were going for a decent amount. Now, these books here, X-Men 141 and 142, they weren't necessarily dollar bin books. They were always sought out. A Days of Future Past was a very popular storyline. They wouldn't have made a movie surrounding about it if it wasn't. But these books were always commanding, a little bit more, than your average X-Men book around that time. When it was announced that it was going to be Days of Future Past, I know these books shot up a bit, and they stayed up there for a while, and they started to come down. So there was a lot of hype around them. And they truly are great books to have. I'm not saying that any of the books in this series or in this particular video, because they were hyped, and now maybe they're not so hot now, or maybe they're still kind of hot, they're just crappy books. I'm not saying that. These books right here, the last 3 that I showed, the Apocalypse one and these 2, they're great books to have if you're an X-Men fan, if you really like collecting for that particular group. They're wonderful. But the point is now, I don't think they're not as hot as they used to be, and I don't think they're going to get hotter. Whereas I said a few moments ago with Apocalypse, I wouldn't be surprised. Down the line, Kevin Feige uses Apocalypse in some way if the movies become successful. If X-Men is successful and things are really rolling, I wouldn't be surprised. This, on the other hand, I don't know. I don't think so, but they're still great to have. And you can get them for, like I said, they're not necessarily high grade copies like the ones I have. I upgraded years ago. They're not necessarily cheap, but they're not very expensive either. So they could still be bought at a pretty good price if you're looking to add that to your collection. Now, this was another one that shot up, I think, in the summer of 2014. And of course, afterwards. Daredevil 168, the first appearance of Elektra. Elektra was on Daredevil Season 2. I enjoyed the Daredevil series. I know there are some episodes in all 3 seasons, 1, 2, and 3, especially 3, that are very much filler episodes. Some of the filler episodes are okay. In Season 3, one that comes to mind that I enjoyed, and I don't know if a lot of people enjoyed this one, was when Karen Page went back to her hometown. You know, that is the very definition of a filler episode, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed learning about her and all that stuff. But anyway, when it comes to Elektra, you know, she was a pivotal character in Daredevil Season 2 and in the Defenders series. So, you know, it was fetching a decent amount of money. And this book was always very popular, a Frank Miller book. First appearance of Elektra, she was always a popular character. And it was commanding a decent amount of money. Again, I'm not going to say it was commanding a lot of money. Even in the high grade, it was commanding a decent amount. But now I think it's become more affordable as that fire has been put out. Now here's another one that was, I think, caught on for a little while, then it cooled off, but I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised in the future. I don't want to say the near future, but in the future, that this book, possibly maybe even like Apocalypse, might start to pick up again. But anyway, right now I think it's fairly affordable. Fantastic Four number 45. I think a lot of people would agree. Jack Kirby on Fantastic Four, he did some of his best work at Marvel in their Silver Age on the Fantastic Four. And with Kirby, you could look at the early Fantastic Four stuff and pick out a bunch of great things, but you see how his artwork on the Fantastic Four only improved. So by the time he got to the midway, I think he stopped drawing like around issue 100, give or take a few issues. By the time he got to the midpoint, 45 right here, First Appearance of Inhumans, the 48, the 49, the 52, he was really doing well with some great covers and some great artwork. He really found his niche when it came to drawing this team. But even the early ones were great too, but I think it was around this time where he really started to shine and got even better and better and better. But anyway, this book became hot because of the TV series, which I think it was an utter disaster. But, as the Fantastic Four, like the X-Men, are now going to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, again, if everything goes well, everything is successful, most likely we'll see the Inhumans in one form or another. So the book might become hot. But I remember after the TV series, naturally, after a TV series doesn't do well, or even after the series, the season's over, the books that were hot start to cool down a bit. And I think this one took a bit of a dip. But right now, it might be going back up because, a lot of people are specking, are the Inhumans going to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? And all these other things. So it's just something to keep your eye on, but it's something I noticed. Now, here's another one. Again, this is another book that's, I wouldn't want to say it's a hot book, but it's, it can be pricey. You have New Mutants 98, first appearance of Deadpool, and among others. Again, right around the time the Deadpool movie, the first one, came out, this book was just everywhere. It was selling like crazy. People wanted it. But even when the second Deadpool movie came out, I think the book softened, and it stayed soft. It still fetches for a decent amount of money, no doubt about it. But I don't think it's as strong as it used to be. And I don't think the second Deadpool movie really boosted it that much. This book was boosted, from the time we heard Deadpool was going to get a movie, and Deadpool had been popular for a few years. And I've always heard those stories that over a decade ago, longer, you could still find this in dollar bins. I don't know about that. Maybe you could have, but even when I first got into the hobby in '93, I didn't see it in dollar bins. I saw it on the wall every now and then, and it was commanding a little bit more money than dollar. But right now, it's still a pretty valuable book, a good book to have. I think I've always liked it, but it's kind of, I think it's definitely softened. And I don't know, again, with Deadpool now going into MCU, that's a big game changer. A lot of those previously owned by Fox Studios or whatever, now all those properties are now being absorbed into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And if they could successfully do it and start a new phase very successfully as they've done before, a lot of the books I've just shown, the hype might rise up again and make the books go even higher than what they're worth, most likely, but we'll see. But it's definitely a book that I've noticed it's, hasn't really moved too much when it comes to value. It sort of stays steady right now. Last two. I remember when Ms. Marvel was announced, and the months and the time after that, this book shot up considerably. This is the first appearance of Carol Danvers. It's not even the first appearance of her as Ms. Marvel. That's Ms. Marvel #1. And I would show Ms. Marvel #1 in this video if I had I not sold it. Yes, when that was becoming hot. And I probably sold it a little too, right around the time where it was getting the most amount of money. It was. I sold that off. But and I sold my original copy of this off too, a little before that. Okay, I sold it almost when it was at when it was at its peak. But when the movie was over and I saw an opportunity with Nick to buy this, I said, yeah, I'll bring it back in my collection, and I might even bring Ms. Marvel #1 back in, because now it's so cheap. It's so cheap now, compared to you get a 9.0 and 9.4 of that book for like a fraction less. This is so much less than what it was going for a couple years ago. It's again the hype around it, and once the movie's over, and Ms. Marvel is going to be coming back. It's not like she was a one and done character. She certainly wasn't that, and that was never the plan with her. I know a lot of people complained about Brie Larson. I think that's her name, the actress who played Ms. Marvel. I didn't have a problem with her. I mean, I don't think she's that talented when it comes to being an actress. But then again, though, so many actors and actresses today, in my opinion, are not talented. It's just, I don't even know if that even matters anymore. But other than that, I didn't really have a problem with her. I mean, I know some people had problems with her, but I thought her movie and her appearances in the MCU were pretty good. And she's going to be coming back, like I said. So who knows? There might be an interest in this book again. I don't know. But it's, again, this book and the Ms. Marvel #1 are two very good examples of books that were just really hot. I talked about Apocalypse and Days of Future Past. They heated up, and they were getting more money than they were normally getting up to that point. But that book in particular, the Marvel Superheroes 13, that thing just skyrocketed. 5.5s were getting like ridiculous amounts of money. And the Ms. Marvel #1s were getting so much money, more than what they had been getting for years. That character in those two books are prime examples of hype that really shot a book up to the moon. It didn't shoot it up really, really high in the sky. It went out of the atmosphere. It was really, really hot. And then it crashed back down. Now, the last one in this book, in this haul, this video, this is another one that went up, and it kept going up and kept going up and kept going up. And now I think it's softened, much like Deadpool. It holds a decent amount of its value, but it's nowhere near, I don't think, as sought out or as valuable as it was when the hype was really high for it. And that's Iron Man 55. I had sold my copy right around the best time to sell it. I had like a 6.0 copy. And then I said to myself, I'd like to bring that back in to my collection, because I like Thanos. I like the book. I like it a lot. I said, well, one day I'll bring it back. And I did last year when the book started to soften. And I got what I thought was a pretty good deal for it, and I brought it back in. I saw an opportunity to bring it back in, and it was a couple points higher than my original copy, so I'm happy. But it's another example of a book that, for many years it was climbing. It kept going up and up and up, and then when the last Avengers movie came out, when Thanos is, finished, it started to slowly go down and started to soften. So, but that's to be expected. That's to be expected when it comes to villain books. You know, there are certain villain books that I think are bulletproof to that when it comes to the movie, the announcement, and then after the movie they start to soften. There are some villain books I think are bulletproof to that. And one of them is Doctor Doom, Fantastic Four 5. And there, of course, there are others out there. Very few, though. Very few others that are bulletproof. Unfortunately, I don't think Thanos is bulletproof. But you never know. You never know what they're going to be doing in the MCU. But the point is, you know, the hype has calmed down. You could probably get yourself a nice copy. It's still expensive. You know, it's not a $100 book anymore, you know, or a $150 book. It's still pretty expensive if you want like an 8.5 or even a 6.0 or even a 5.0, but nowhere near as expensive as it was a year ago, a year and a half ago. So that's Comic Book Hype Part 2. I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know, I might do a Part 3, who knows when, maybe at the end of this year or next year. But what do you think are some books that really, there was so much hype around them, and they were selling for so much, but then whenever the hype ended, they sort of really softened or crashed down? Now, there's some books that still retain their value after hype. Some may lose a little bit of their value, but not a whole lot. But what do you think are some books that really lost a lot of their desirability after the movies or after the TV shows or after the hype ended? I'd be interested in hearing what you have to say. Take care, everyone.